The ninth statement of chapter 4 in Gongchik. For us, maybe, on the surface, it looks like a strange statement, because it says, if one harms a bodhisattva, one will not have a connection with happiness. Yeah? If one harms a bodhisattva, one will not have connection with happiness. You cannot make a connection with happiness by harming bodhisattvas. So you say, I'm sure, you're thinking, yeah, isn't that obvious? Of course, there's a context to this. Because there are places in the sutras and in the tantras, these two collections of the Buddha's teachings. The sutras are generally the collection of the Buddha's teachings that we call the sutra tradition, meaning general Mahayana, and also Hinayana, all the teachings of that are sutra based. Then there are teachings that are tantra based, and these are what we call Vajrayana or secret mantra teachings. So the two divisions into sutra and the sutra division, and then the secret mantra. And so these are the two. And so then in the sutras and the tantras, one sometimes comes across statements like, it's usually in the context of how bodhisattvas are such sublime, wonderful beings. They are such sublime, wonderful beings. They're so full of compassion, so full of loving kindness, that even if sentient beings harm them, they will only respond to sentient beings with love and compassion. So sometimes the bodhisattvas are compared to a sandalwood tree. Apparently, I don't know, with the sandalwood tree, the more you cut it, meaning the more you abuse it, the more fragrant. It's possible, it's like if you think about trees, their defense system, right? So they produce this oil, they produce the sap when it is like being threatened. And it just turns out that the sap or the oil that they produce, we like, the smell. So then people who cultivate sandalwood, they have discovered that if you take a knife, and you whack, the trunk. I mean, not until you cut it, then of course the tree is finished. If you whack it, people do the same with fruit trees. Fruit trees that don't bear fruit. Sometimes they say you take a big machete, and slash, the trunk, and then it will spur it. So bodhisattvas are compared to that. Like they're such great beings that if you even if you harm them, then also you will come across statements like, again, bodhisattvas are such wonderful beings that, having even negative connection with them is better than having no connection with them. So all of this is said to emphasize and to inspire us and to challenge us that if we think of ourselves as having embarked on the bodhisattva path, then we should return, right? Respond to harm with love and compassion. So even when others harm us deliberately or accidentally, we should, genuinely respond to them with love and compassion. So that's the context of those teachings. But apparently, during Jigten Sumgon's time, there are people who said that who kind of take that out of context, to say even harming a bodhisattva, it's okay, because it will connect you with, even if even these people who say this or believe this, they don't say, immediately you will achieve happiness if you harm a bodhisattva. Of course, they don't say that. They will say, even though in the short term, it might bring you karmic backlash, right? Negative karmic fruit. But because you have made a connection with the bodhisattva, then in the long run, it will bring you happiness. So over-exaggerating, taken out of context. Now, also to keep in mind, during Kyobpa Rinpoche's time in the 12th century, there are all these stories and rumors about how there are such powerful beings, such sublime bodhisattvas, that they would even, they don't use the word murder, they use the word liberate. They will even liberate bodhisattvas. Liberate being a code word for murdering bodhisattvas. The history of the transmission of Buddhism to Tibet, it's a little, some parts are very inspiring, some parts are a little confusing, There was, for example, a translator, famous translator, but his biography is seemingly, very violent. That he famously boasted, that he has liberated 13 bodhisattvas in Tibet. He himself was a Tibetan translator, and he famous for practicing supposedly some very wrathful deity. Among the 13, it says that Marpa's only son, was one of them that he liberated. So I don't know exactly, when Jigten Sumgon said this statement, but you can imagine, the climate is such that, some people emphasizing so much of the power and the crazy wisdom of these more tantric style teachers, go about liberating even bodhisattvas in common language, murdering bodhisattvas, supposedly to help them go to a higher realm so that they can achieve enlightenment faster. Now, I'm not commenting, so much about this particular translator who boasts about liberating 13 bodhisattvas, that he was actually causing harm. I'm not so much saying that. I'm saying this gives us like a sense, of the climate, right, of the attitudes of people during the time of Kyobpa Rinpoche. That there were people who even will say, well, it's okay, even if you accidentally harm a bodhisattva, that's better than not having any connection with bodhisattvas. Then Kyobpa Rinpoche here, almost to us, stating the obvious, statement 9 says, no happiness can come, okay, from harming a bodhisattva. So please be careful, in other words. Khenpo Kunpal's commentary. Through the action of harming a bodhisattva who carries the burden of benefiting others, one will not have a connection with happiness and will suffer a long time in the hell realms. Shantideva said, if someone generates negative thoughts towards such a patron bodhisattva, the sage said that he will stay in hell for as many eons as the amount of moments he generated negative thoughts. However, Shantideva also said, I take refuge in that source of happiness who connects even those who harm them with happiness. And so this is one quote, sometimes people misunderstand. So Khenpo Kunpal here clarifies. But what does this mean? This is due to the power of the Bodhisattva's own generation of bodhicitta and aspiration prayers. But it is not due to the harmful person's own karmic power. The harmful person's own karmic power, which is negative karma, will only ripen as suffering. Therefore, it is crucial to abandon harm towards such bodhisattvas and make faithful and respectful connections with them. Yeah? So here, right? The power and the ability of bodhisattvas to return in response to harm shown to them, they return with kindness, which is related to the statement before, right? To exchange self with other. Take the suffering, give others your happiness. So here it says, the ability of bodhisattvas to do that come from their own aspirations, their own courage, their own power of love and compassion. So this is good for them, good for the bodhisattvas, that they are so amazing that even when people harm them, they will only respond with kindness. As for those who create harm towards bodhisattvas, and for that matter, towards any beings, that creating of harm, that harming, can only bring about negativity, meaning bring about results that we don't want, we don't like, bring about suffering. And so this is, again, to kind of help us fine-tune our understanding of karmic causality. Not to overgeneralize and say, oh, it's for a good reason. Oh, it's for good motivation. And therefore, even if the result comes out bad, it's okay. His motivation is good. But often, right, motivations are not so simple, not so clear-cut, black and white. So as I said yesterday, so one of the things that we do, one of the ways of thinking about what are we doing when we say practice Dharma. Often we think practice Dharma is like the more formal things, like what we're doing now, do Sangha offering, listen to the teachings, explain the teachings, turn the prayer wheel. Often we think, oh, Dharma practice, But these are all tools to help us bring Dharma into what we say off cushion, when you get off your meditation cushion, when you get out of your shrine room, which for you and me, right, is most hours of the day and night. Unless you are in perpetual retreat, right? Dharma practice is very limited if it is just on the cushion. So the actual Dharma practice is training our mind, training our hearts, removing the mental defilements, refining our motivation. So to refine our motivation so that our motivation, which is now a very mixed bag, will become more and more and more and more bodhicitta. Until the two bodhicittas are accomplished. Relative bodhicitta of wishing to become Buddha for the benefit of all beings, out of love and compassion for all beings, wishing to become Buddhas, relative bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta, the emptiness of all phenomena, the luminosity of mind, all that related to ultimate bodhicitta, wisdom aspect. So we keep refining our motivations removing the 8 mundane concerns more and more and more until they have no power over us, Then that time, not just with words, with reality, we can just settle into the natural state. It's very fashionable to talk about settling into the natural state, settling into the natural state. Like, who doesn't want to just, settle into natural state? Yeah, oh, natural state, Then someone comes along and say, bleep you. Oh, immediately, natural state disappear, emotional states come up. Somebody curse you out, or somebody betray you, somebody, that you have been so kind to, and they betray you, they harm you. Oh, immediately, natural state naturally disappear, That's the natural state we have now, that will naturally and very impermanent, very quickly turn into the afflictive emotions. Yes, of course, natural state is natural state. Natural state is our Buddha state, And if we are able to just settle into that and remain there, So that quote from Jigten Sumgon that I posted a few weeks ago, if we can just let mind remain in mind, what that means there is if we can just let our monkey mind, the activities of the heart, the activities of the mind, stay with mind, that means rest in its natural state. If we can just let all thoughts, all conceptualities subside into the ground of being, the ground of the mind, if we can just trace the activities of the heart back to the heart and stay unmoving in the heart, in such a way unmoving that you don't even need to exert effort to curtail the activities of the heart. The activities of the heart may continue, but you see them for what they are. They are naturally, you could say, the radiance, the luminosity of the mind. And then you let the activities of the heart, just play out the way they play out. Don't follow them, don't chase them, don't suppress them. Because that all these thoughts, all these conceptualities, all these emotions that rise up, all of this, they are merely activities of the heart, and let them dissolve back into the ground of the heart. Then, when we train that, we become more and more capable of just settling, letting mind remain in mind, which is what that instruction is about. Letting mind remain in mind is not going to work if you only have the information. Oh, mind is naturally pure. Oh, mind is naturally free. Oh, mind is naturally empty. But then we have a lot of unnatural things going on. Our kleshas, our afflictive emotions, all the waves. We have attraction and aversion towards the waves. If you're a surfer, you see the waves, you rush towards them, attraction. If you don't know how to swim, even, standing on the shore, you look at the waves, you back away, attachment and aversion. As long as our habits of attachment and aversion are still in control, then, as they say, in one of the sutras, not in the sutra, in the shastra, called The Awakening of Faith in the Mahayana. It says, I'm seeing Julian's dog. It's like, hey, time to go out. Hey, time to go out. So in the Mahayana Awakening of Faith, it says, to know that the nature of water is wet is very different from successfully crossing the ocean of samsara. It's not enough to know if the nature of water is wet, and therefore, if you get wet, it's just natural. Right? So it says, but that's very different from, whether you sink and drown in samsara or you successfully cross this ocean. This Awakening of Faith in the Mahayana is translated into Chinese, exists only in Chinese. And it says it's basically teaching about Buddha nature. So there it says, like it's not enough to know that your nature is Buddha. You have to practice the skills that are necessary. So anyway, getting a little distracted. 410. And this is really repeating a theme that we have already seen in the Vinaya chapter. So to clarify, you could say 9 and 8, and this is how Sherab Jungne arranged these statements. Again, the occasion when Jigten Sumgon made these statements are probably on different occasions, but that Sherab Jungne, arranged them in this way. He's seeing, of course, some connections among these statements. So 410 is a statement that its principle we already seen earlier. It says the results of virtue and non-virtue arise individually. So this is a very helpful, very important statement to remember. So this speaks to how, right? We say karma depends on intention. Karma depends on motivation. Whether something is negative karma or positive karma, it's related to what is the underlying motivation. Anything that its underlying motivation is due to the 3 poisons, and then all the afflictive emotions that come from the 3 poisons, then they are negative karma, negative causes. Negative causes produce negative results. Any kind of actions that is free from the 3 poisons, and in fact the opposite of the 3 poisons, so instead of deluded ignorance, delusive ignorance, it comes from a place of clear seeing, perfect knowing, wisdom. Instead of attachment, it comes from a place of clarity about not getting entangled, not getting caught up. Instead of anger and harm, coming from a place of love and compassion. All those are virtues, right? So this speaks to how, however, right now, when we do something, when we don't do something, is a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag of motivations. And so this mixed bag of motivations means there are positive motivations and there are negative motivations. But insofar as when they ripen, they don't ripen into some hybrid result. They ripen individually, meaning the positive ripens in a positive way, the negative ripens in a negative way. So you created some mixed bag of karma that results in you being invited now to a big fancy banquet dinner, a big feast. So you are able to eat whatever you like, all of that, enjoy everything you like, Oh, this must be ripening of good karma, But then when you get home, indigestion, cannot sleep. That's the ripening of some negative karma. Yeah. So the results of virtue and non-virtue, they ripen individually without being mixed, And why it's so important that we don't forget this is so that we don't, become excited or give up based on the wrong reasons. So 410 says, moreover, by the power of the correlated existence of causes and results, the mutual relation between what is inevitable and what is impossible does not go wrong. Therefore, the pleasant and painful results of virtuous and non-virtuous causes arise individually and unmixed. It is like it is told, it is like in the basic Vinaya, this text, how a butcher and a prostitute in an established town experience the results of suffering and happiness from virtue and non-virtue alternately. Therefore, virtue and non-virtue that are propelling and completing actions turn into separate results, and even each result of mixed actions is only experienced individually. This last part is talking about, again, all these specialized terms dividing things. But main point here is saying how all these things are trying to clarify, basically. So this propelling and completing, sometimes, some authorities in the past, this is not like Jigten Sumgon's way of looking at things, but there are some scholars, and they will say, well, look at this action, the propelling force is a good one. But then as they complete the action, they complete it in a negative way. So then the result becomes negative. Jigten Sumgon will say, actually, no. The propelling will still produce, if the so-called propelling motivation, the initial motivation is positive, right? Then you say, now I want to go do this. That will produce its positive result. And then along the way of completing that action, some negative motivation turns up, some unskillful state of mind, sometimes don't even need to be motivation, but some unskillful state of mind interrupts, then you do something, you create negative karma, that action will also produce results. So it's not that you start off well, then by starting off well, mysteriously you ended up doing something negative. Kyobpa Rinpoche says, it's not like that. Don't blame. So often we do, you say, why are we looking at this in kind of hair splitting, But we often, make this mistake, you say, well, my intentions were good. See the mess I got into? As if, then we're blaming, our good intentions. So even in English, you have this expression, the road to hell is paved by good intentions. Oh my gosh, that's actually messed up understanding of karmic causality. If you literally believe that, no, good intentions will ripen into, good results. But then after good intentions, that's not enough. You need mindfulness, you need awareness, right? So sometime I think elsewhere somebody asks, in Introduction to Buddhism class, say you want to really help, but then you accidentally, harm a whole bunch of people. What kind of karma is going on there? Well, of course, it's very hard to see exactly, but there we can say that what I think can be clear is that you end up harming. That is not because of your good intentions. That is because of something else. Something else could be in your excitement to help, right? You're thinking, oh, this would be so good, if I can help them. Other people will be so happy. It'll be so impressive. So then you don't take time to learn about the situation. See, there, it's a mixed bag. Some pride entered the picture. Laziness too, it's okay, I know how to handle this, like laziness. And that will produce its results. Laziness and not taking responsibility for finding out, researching, before you implement something. Before you have enough information, is this really what they need or not? So all these are the various kinds of motivations that turn up, in the course of action of to do something or not to do something. So this is 4:10. So today we'll stop here. Then we'll continue 4:11. 4:11 is kind of slightly different, the direction that it is going. This is about the power of bodhicitta. Once you have generated it, it says you don't lose it. You may forget it, but you won't lose it. Like your glasses, it's like that, oh, where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? You forgot, you have not lost. It says bodhicitta is like that. So we'll look at that tomorrow.